All right. Welcome in, listeners. We're back with another Margin Mavens episode. Let's see if I remember how to do this because it's been so long. It's been months since we've done this. We're here today with Allie Russell, um, author of It Came from the Trees, who you might remember we had an episode about that and it was lovely. And now Allie is back to talk about Mystery James Digs Her Own Grave, a middle grade book about Mystery James, a 13-year-old who ends up in a little bit of trouble, honestly, more often than not. But she's an absolute joy. And we're here with Allie today, and I'm so excited. I was so excited for this book because I have always been like the little mystery solver. Scooby Doo was my thing growing up, and then So Weird. And I know you put that in the acknowledgement section of your book. But Mystery James does give me big Fee from So Weird vibes.
That is, well, first of all, thank you for having me, Kayla.
Yes.
That is such a compliment. Like I was such a, oh my gosh, the Fee was it for me. So Weird was it for
Yes.
me. I always tell
Yes.
people like she was the first blogger, like kid
Yes.
blogger anyway, like the first paranormal blogger.
Yes.
I we still watch, the reruns and everything. So like that's a
Oh,
huge compliment. I want kids to be able to like meet a character like Fee in present
yes.
time. So
In
I
present
appreciate
times. Yes. And Mystery James she's so fun because she cares so deeply about the people that she loves, but like she doesn't let that really dictate what she wants. Like, she decides not to get into spoilers too much right now, but she decides she's going to solve this mystery and it does not matter. Like, this is her thing. Like, she's all blinders on, trying to find out more information about where she came from, which is like the biggest thing. Not so much what happened, but more like her mom and all of that. So outside of So Weird, what other inspiration did you use for Mystery James?
I think she's a little bit of every goth girl that we've loved. Lydia
Mm-hmm.
Dietz, Wednesday Adams. I don't know if we consider Fee goth or not, but like the content that she's interested in is
Yes.
definitely a little bit goth. So I think she's just like a a representation of some of those like characters that we all grew up loving, but told by me. So we get more representation because like I think, people who look like us may not have grown up with like characters who were like
Hmm.
highly popular like in this space. So I'm
Yes.
glad to introduce her to the canon.
She's so great. I love her so much. How how did like the story of Mystery James like come to being? Like what was that process like?
Yeah, it started with like a few things. So she okay, the genesis for the general idea for people who don't know, Mystery can smell ghosts, and
Yes.
it's only recently that she can see them in this book. So that part of the story came probably like a few years ago when my husband and I were living in one of our old apartments in
Hmm.
Boston or near outside of Boston, and there was a weird smell in one of the rooms in our house, and like, I would go, and it was like kind of like I can't just that electrical is like not the right way to describe it, but it's the only word that
Yes.
comes to mind. Like it was like a tangy electrical scent, like almost like something was burning, but like not quite, like something
Right.
was maybe getting a little bit too hot. So I would go into this room and be like, "Hey, do you smell this?" And my husband was always like, "No, I don't smell anything." And so I finally like figured out what it was, and what it was those USB chargers, like how lamps will
Yes.
sometimes have it built in. It was that, like, my husband was plugging his phone into the little USB charger on the lamp, and I don't know if it was overheating or if that was just like the smell that it made, but like it was making that like very distinct smell. But
Yeah.
prior to me like discovering what it was, one day I was like, what is it? What is it? Like I smell it. What is it? I don't know what it is. I've like searched high and low. And then one day my brain was like, what if it's a ghost? Like, what if you're smelling a ghost? And that kind of like gave me the chills a little bit. So I was like, oh, that's a good like story
Yeah.
idea to like work with. So that was like the idea behind like her being able to smell ghosts. Her, you know, she again for readers who don't know, her aunt owns a funeral home and they operate the cemetery across the street.
Yes.
So that part came because I'm just a cemetery girl through and through. Like I want
Yes.
to, if I go to a new place, I want to see a cemetery and I want to see the bookstore. Those are like my top two things whenever we're in a new city. So I love cemeteries, and back when we were living in New England, they're everywhere. They're like
They
on
are
they're
everywhere.
on every
Yes.
street corner. Like you could be driving by
Yes.
somebody's house and you're like, what's that? Is that a tiny cemetery in their backyard?
Yeah.
And maybe other parts of the country are like this too, but you know, New England is so old that they
Hmm.
are just literally everywhere. And so I've been to tons of them, you know, across
Right.
Massachusetts mostly, but you know, we've also you know been to other ones like New Hampshire, Connecticut,
Right.
wherever. So that was like the other part of this. Is like it's the cemetery is where I feel comfortable. It's quiet. I feel at peace.
Hmm.
I feel safe. If you're going in the daytime, I feel safe. And then so like the highlight was the same apartment where I was smelling the thing where I was like, what if it's a ghost? We had just moved into that apartment, and so we lived like 5 minutes walking distance from a very cool cemetery. And that
Uh-huh.
cemetery was where I escaped to, you know, during the pandemic when we weren't sure if we were allowed to go outside. We didn't know what the new rules were. And
Right.
we were like cooped up in a tiny apartment. And so we would walk to the cemetery. So like that was like a big inspiration behind it too, like just being able to like meander all the walkways of this like very quiet cemetery on a hill. It was so fun. So those are like the primary influences on where Mystery James came from.
Came from.
Yeah.
Mystery describes the scent of ghosts as battery acid.
Yeah.
Where did that scent come from? Because that's a very
I
specific
I
descriptor.
feel like I was trying to get close to like a scent that like people would understand. Because if I say, "Oh, it
Yeah.
smells like electricity," I know what I'm trying to express in my head, but I don't know that like the anybody else would
Right.
necessarily get that. So I'm like, well, what is like an acidic kind of otherworldly smell that like
Smell.
or feels otherworldly anyway, you know, that people could connect to. And sometimes we like I've used this one in the book too. Ozone is like another scent that's like sulfur. Like you have all these like
Yeah.
strange smells that are often associated sulfur typically with demons, but they're associated with like another realm.
Right.
So I hoped that that would like
It did.
make
It
sense
did.
to readers and connect with them in a way where it's like, oh, it's like it doesn't smell like you know something that should be here. So
Right. So on top of not knowing her parentage, smelling ghosts, starting to see ghosts, poor Mystery also deals with sleep paralysis. What was the thought process behind that choice?
oh, have you ever experienced sleep
Yes.
paralysis? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I just like to know what I'm dealing with, who I'm dealing with. There's no accurate way to explain how frightening sleep paralysis is to
Hmm.
somebody
Hmm.
unless you've experienced it.
Experienced
Like I
it.
think other
Yep.
people will read it and they'll be like, "Oh, that's a little bit creepy," but like when you are experiencing it, which I've experienced
Yes.
it 3 times in my life, and it's such a distinct and frightening experience that like
Hmm.
I remember every time that it happened. But the first time that it happened, I was a teenager. I was about 15, 16. I actually just wrote a blog post about this if anybody wants to read about the full experience. But um, I was so confused about what was happening, why it
Right.
was happening. I did all this research. And then it happened to me 2 more times in college, like both in college, like maybe over the course of a couple years. My dad has experienced it, and like I remember
Hmm.
talking to him about like this, you know, after the day after it happened when I was a teenager, I talked to him and was like, "Hey, this." He's like, "Oh, that sounds like you know sleep paralysis." You know, so we talked
Yeah.
about it because he's experienced it too. Um, and it just hits some people and other people are fortunate enough to escape it. But added that to the book because it was such a frightening,
It
otherworldly
is.
experience. Um, and I've seen that it tends to affect, kids when they are going through adolescence. Like that's usually like when
Mm-hmm.
it can start. So it's like, okay, well, she's 13, if she's experiencing some of this other like paranormal phenomena, it makes
Right.
sense that, she might experience something like this too. So I tossed it in because I had direct experience with it. And it felt right for her character, as far as like, I don't want to spoil anything, but as far as
Yeah.
conveying certain parts of the plot.
It really was. It was really interesting to read it, because when you describe it, it is worse, like the not being able to breathe. Really, it is so much. As somebody who has also suffered from asthma, I was like, it is
Yeah,
worse
yeah,
than like the asthma itself, because eventually the asthma will you take a couple puffs of an inhaler and it'll ease up, but like the sleep paralysis, you're like, when is it gonna
yeah.
stop? And then she's dealing with her own little sleep paralysis demon. Some people have the Hat Man,
Yep.
which I've
There's a
seen.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for you.
It's
I will say
okay.
I've never seen anything. Because when it happens, my eyes are closed, and so I can never get my eyes, to open, like same as
Hmm.
Mystery. My eyes are closed, but the feeling of
Yeah.
someone else being in the room with you and you can't
Yeah.
move is terrifying.
Hmm.
I'm so sorry that you've seen that.
It's okay. It's
I think I
okay.
would just die in my sleep if that happened to me.
But it's so interesting talking with other people who haven't ever experienced. It's like, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean you haven't experienced sleep paralysis? They're like, wait, you have? And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's
It's this
terrifying.
huge weight like on your chest that you like can't get off no matter what. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah, and
horrifying.
there's a documentary about it. I think it's called The Nightmare.
Hmm.
I linked to it in the blog post that I just wrote about sleep paralysis. So if anybody's interested, you can access it there. But um it's all about, this very strange phenomenon that people experience. And
Yeah.
they do go into the Hat Man. They also go into the painting The Nightmare. Like I talk a little bit
Yes.
about that, where that's the Henry Fuseli, the classic
Hmm.
representation of sleep paralysis, where you have this like woman draped over a bed. She looks like she's swooning a little bit. There's a demon sitting right on her
Yeah.
chest,
On her
and there are
chest.
all these
Yep.
like ghoulish figures in the background. So that was like, you know, some of the inspiration for the sleep paralysis episodes that Mystery experiences too.
Poor Mystery, man. It just she goes through it in this book. The poor 13-year-old just goes
He
through it in this
does.
book. Um to get into some spoilers. So, listeners, if you haven't read Mystery James Digs Her Own Grave, this is your warning. Go read it, come back. Um the part that really hits, and it actually didn't hit me until the second reread for me,
Okay.
was when Mystery sees her mom and doesn't realize that it's her mom, and then just experiences exactly what her mom, like, it didn't click really until like I reread it and I was like, "Oh my god." As a
Okay.
mom and as a daughter, I was like, this is the most emotionally devastating thing I've ever read.
I'm sorry to devastate you. It's a very we're giggling about,
Yeah,
the story itself, but like deep down, like it is, a very emotional thing that
it
she's going
is.
through, like not knowing what happened to her mom or why she was abandoned in this
Mm-hmm.
cemetery, dealing with all of these like frightening things. And she's got her Tia Lucy, her Tia Lucy is there to like help her through things, but as when you're reading, Thea Lucy's got like her own
Her
problems
own issue.
happen,
Yeah.
her own things happening, and not that she, she's not like casting Mystery to the side or anything, but she's being affected by a lot that's happening right now. So Mystery kind of feels
Right.
like it's up to her to like solve all of this, and so experiencing something like that without really understanding what it is,
Mm-hmm.
I think that I think it speaks to a lot of the like supernatural terrors that she is dealing
Yes.
with, like with Garrett, like where all of these things are happening to her and she's not like necessarily connecting the dots yet because some of it
Right.
is still very new to her. But yeah, it was a hard scene to write.
It had to
For
have been.
a number of reasons.
Yeah.
So
It
yeah,
had to have been because it's just so. And then you get to the end of the book, like, oh man, she must have pieced it together, and then having to like unpack all of that. Poor mystery.
yeah.
Poor mystery. But you bring up Garrett, who is Mystery's best friend. Yes, we love Garrett. I am a big Garrett fan. Okay, I
I'm
relate
a
to
fan too.
Garrett a
Yes,
lot.
me too.
Like, I would like to pretend that I'm more Mystery, but in fact, I'm actually Garrett. I'm gonna run at the first sign of trouble every time.
You're gonna run. You're gonna be worried about getting into trouble. I am more
Yes.
Garrett too. I like the idea of mystery, but if I had to like
Yes.
pick a character who embodied like more of what I would do in these situations, it is
It'd
definitely
be
Garrett.
Garrett. Yeah, 100%. So we start off, and Mystery's furious with Garrett because once again he left her holding the bag to get in trouble. Um, and at the end, he doesn't run. He stays, and that sort of helps Mystery make the decision that, oh, like I do have family. I have people who care about me. I have to like think about them right now and not like the ghosts of my past. And what was your inspiration for Garrett specifically? Was that just you tapping into yourself, or was it like every mystery, every fee needs their co
needs
their
needs
their
their brother.
co-conspirator? Yeah.
Well, so Garrett is Mystery's best friend. They've, been besties since childhood, but when you
Mhm.
have close relationships like that, um, at this stage, there's like almost a sibling dynamic there because like they know
Yes.
each other so well. They've grown up together. They're very, very comfortable around each other. Um, I for Garrett, I tried to create a character who was reasonable and more grounded than Mystery is.
Hmm.
Mystery is so ready to like there's a vampire in the cemetery. Let's go.
Yeah.
She just like throws caution to the wind.
To the wind.
She's gonna chase down the lead. And I feel like whenever you have a very like headstrong
Spirited.
spirited is a good word. I was gonna say sometimes dangerous. Because she's also a teen. Like her brain is not fully developed, so she's also
Yeah.
a young teen. She's
Yeah.
doing things that make sense in her head because she's thinking about her immediate situation.
Hmm.
And Garrett is kind of like the one who's holding her hand, like, "Hey,
Yeah.
think about
Hold
this
on a
for a second."
second.
Yeah,
Wait.
yeah, and he's a little more, he's got because of his family structure at home. He's one of four kids, and his parents are a little bit stricter.
Right.
He and not to say that Dia Lucy's not strict. It's just it's her and Mystery. She's running a business together,
Right.
and
It's a different
she
kind of
can't not.
strict.
It's a different
Yeah.
dynamic. So I Garrett, because of his upbringing, like his life is a little bit different, and so like he has to think about all these things that
Hmm.
Mystery doesn't necessarily care about or think about. So I wanted
Hmm.
to create like a character who felt realistic and grounded, and that like a lot of people would be able to identify with, like us,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. Like, we want to be Mystery, but in
Right.
reality,
In
we're the
reality, we're all
Garrett.
Garrett. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
all Garrett,
Yep.
just trying to keep our person from diving headfirst into a dangerous situation,
Yeah.
like tussling with a vampire. Which, spoiler alert, readers, there is a vampire in this book. You think it's all just ghosts, and then Allie was like, "How about a vampire?" Um, who like what was the process on narrowing down like the villain of the story, like the big antagonist in Baron?
Yeah, so Baron is loosely inspired by the Vampire of Highgate Cemetery. I don't know if you've heard of
I
that.
have not heard of that.
So Highgate Cemetery in London back in the 70s, there were reports that people had seen a vampire stalking the cemetery, like a big gray. It started out as like a big gray shadow that was like stalking the
Hmm.
cemetery, and then the media got a hold of the story, sensationalized it. It turned into a vampire. It's a fascinating story. If you can listen to a podcast episode about it, I highly recommend doing that because like it turned into um, just like a wild circus show almost, where you end up with like these two like psychics who are kind of dueling. They agree that they're going to meet on a hill in the cemetery and have like a wizard's duel at some point because they're both trying to control the narrative of the vampire of Highgate Cemetery while the media is like, we need to sell more papers, so we need to make this as
Right.
outlandish as possible. But meanwhile, like very like real and upsetting things were happening at Highgate
Right.
Cemetery at that time. Like bodies were being dug up, like people were breaking into the cemetery to try to track down the vampire. Like it was a wild time. So Baron was inspired by that a little bit because I just think in general the concept of a vampire lurking in the cemetery is really frightening, especially if you live across the street from said cemetery.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so yeah, that's kind of where he came from. But like also, I didn't want to make him so Baron is a vampiric ghost. I
Hmm.
didn't want to make him like flesh and blood
Blood,
because it
yeah.
depends on what kind of vampires you're dealing with. Um, I didn't want to make him a flesh and blood creature because the gravedigger that's helping him, Raymond, is like the flesh and blood.
Yes, blood.
I can't talk. Flesh
Yeah,
and blood representation of you know the bad guy, and then Baron is like
correct.
more the spiritual. But like, I yeah he dealt he came from that me thinking about the vampire of Highgate Cemetery and how frightening that was and just how scary it would be like if you had to like manage a cemetery and there was a vampire across the
Yeah.
way from it. So yeah, that's where he came from.
It was very creepy. One thing I remember like in my first read through thinking was how does Allie write such creepy scenes in a middle grade book? Um cuz like I remember it came from the trees freaked me. There is, towards the end as they're talking about Bigfoot and all of that, it like got super creepy and then I'm reading about this vampiric ghost and I'm like this is creepy. Why is this so creepy?
I'm
Excellent
trying
job
to,
there.
thank you. I'm trying to, like I'm trying to write books for that 10 to 10 and up age gap,
Yes.
where we see, kids start to drop off from reading because they're
Hmm.
saying that, maybe some books are not scary enough for them. Maybe other
Right.
books are too scary, too much for them. So I'm trying to like hit that sweet spot in the middle where it's like, it's just creepy enough where you get the chills while you're reading in the daytime. And then maybe you're fine for the rest of the day. And then night rolls around and you're in bed and it's dark in your room and you start thinking about that scene, where
Yes.
Mystery
Yeah.
is thinking about like, well, what if Lady Ellis gets up off that table
Oh my god.
down in the down
I
in the basement and
forgot you
comes up?
tortured her with that too.
So I'm trying to like meet kids where they want to be met,
Yes.
as far as
Yes.
scares.
That's it. You did a really, really great job with that because it
Well,
creeped
thank you.
even me out. And I like to think I don't get creeped out very easily, but Baron definitely was just like, ugh.
It's an honor.
So let's see. It's a really, really well written story that younger me, 13-year-old me would have gobbled it right up because that's exactly where I was like in my little preteen teen life. What's next? Do we get more Mystery James? Is this going to be like a series? They
uh
just explore.
I would love to make it a series. As for right now, this is a duology, so you get one more book that's
Ooh.
coming in September where you will get answers
Ooh.
to some lingering questions that you might have had at the
Mhm.
end of Mystery James 1. You get more Garrett, so for all the Garrett fans, we
Yay.
get more of him.
Do we get
We
more
get
Eliza?
we get more Eliza. I was just gonna say.
Yay.
We get more Eliza Ellis, who also is another one of my absolute favorite characters. And I just have
She's
to,
such a treat.
I love to tell people that she's based off one of my best friends. We're still good friends, but she was one of my best friends in childhood, and she was just one of those people who was like always happy and excited to see you, always had like good
Yes.
thoughts and good things to say. And so that's where Eliza's like good energy and spirit come from. So you get more of her. You get more of Thea Lucy and, all the characters that you love. You get more of the cemetery. Um, that's all I'll say about it. But yeah, we
Okay,
get
that's
one
fair.
more of those in September. And who knows, if people love it enough, maybe I will have an opportunity to write more, because I could very much see a world in which Mystery is just like off solving her
Yeah.
own, things
Yeah.
around Ellistown. So we'll see. Keep our fingers crossed for that. I am also working, like I said, on a couple of collaborative projects. And then one other
Okay.
project that I'm working on is a babysitter horror that I hope to
Ooh,
finish at some point this summer.
that's
Um,
fun.
because I feel like that was another subgenre of horror that I was super into at
Yes.
that age, like 13ish,
Yes.
when I was babysitting. And like I never went to anybody else's house to babysit. Like
Mm-hmm.
babysitter would always bring like the kids to my house where like my sisters and my parents were, so it was like a safer environment.
Yeah.
But like, you watch stuff like When a Stranger Calls and that phone
Yes.
call in the very beginning. I'm like, oh yes, more of this. So that's what I'm hoping to finish by the end of the by the end.
That's
What
fun.
time is it? We're
It's
going.
January.
I hope to finish it by spring. We've just started the year.
We just started the year. I know. It's it's
Ah,
it's January 18th for those who are listening when we're recording this, and it feels like it's already been a year.
it feels like, yeah, like we've been through
It's
12
been the
months already.
longest
Oh my
year.
gosh.
It's been the longest year, and we're still in January.
hmm
Um, Not to kind of rewind a little bit, but Eliza
hmm
is like such a joy. The way she like immediately looks at Mystery when Mystery shows up at our house and is like, it's about time. Like I just
I was waiting on you.
yeah. So I know you said she's a lot like your best friend. What is something that you're hoping people take away from Eliza? Because we don't get a lot of Eliza. Like Garrett, we got Mystery, but Eliza's kind of like this fun little treat. What is one thing you hope people
I
take away from her?
I hope that people excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that people walk away from Eliza and see the potential for good. So Eliza comes from a really wealthy family. They're a wealthy Black family.
Mm-hmm.
They've made their money in Ellistown, so everything's pretty much named after them. But they've also
Right.
invested their money back into the town, which we don't see a lot of that happening.
No.
Um, at present, we see a lot of like millionaires, billionaires hoarding their wealth,
Correct.
um, taking it
Nobody's
away
funding the
from.
arts anymore.
Exactly. Like, and so you don't see a lot of that anymore. And I, when it comes to like younger generations and like wealthy families, I think that they can be very removed from society. Like they don't have access
Mm-hmm.
to as many people as like we do. Like for the most part, most people, you go to school, you have all your
Right.
friends, or even if you're homeschooled, your parents might put you into groups or,
Mm-hmm.
clubs or stuff like that, so you can make other friends. So we're like constantly in connection with like the outside world. And I think a lot of wealthy kids in particular are separated from that, and they don't
Yeah.
develop those like, the empathy. They don't always develop, the empathy that they should have for other people. And so
Right.
Eliza, I wanted her because, she's based on one of my very good friends, who is one of the sweetest people on earth. I wanted to show like that Eliza, coming from this family of like, even though they're wealthy and even though, they still invest in the town, but like they're still a wealthy family. And as you get into
Right.
like the second book, we'll hear a little bit more about like um the Ellis family and like, how they have sometimes fall victim to,
Right.
all of the other things that like other wealthy families fall victim to, like thinking that you have more power than you do, thinking that money can buy everything, and that puts you in a position where you get to tell everybody else what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Eliza, I think I wanted her to just be like a representation of like someone who is trying to do good with the inheritance. And I don't just mean like the money, the
Right.
inheritance that she has. Like, she's willing to share all of this like wealth of information from her grandmother, that she has, and she passes it along to Mystery. So that's what I hope, people take away from it, is that like if we can catch people young enough and like,
Get them to
show
care.
you get them to care and show them like how everything is connected like to the broader
Mm-hmm.
world. Eliza, when she's not in school, she's at the Ellis estate, and that's kind of it. She's not,
Yeah.
she doesn't have the same freedom that Mystery has to like,
Right.
ride her
Run
bike all
around.
around town.
Yeah.
So Mystery is her connection to like this town that her family allegedly cares about. So I just want people to look at Eliza and see that she could be good if she
Yeah.
wants to, and has those connections. So
And she's so she, the way she casually just, threatens her very expensive babysitter into bringing her to the funeral home really is
well,
just a
I
joy.
mean, right, but like that's part of it, right? So she still has like that is something that I could see like wealthy people do. Well, I have money, so you still have to listen to me, and I'm gonna,
Yeah.
tell you what I want you to do. So I, basically blackmailed my babysitter.
Yeah. But
That
also kids
it
will
feels
do
very in
that.
character. Yeah, it feels very in character for her. So
Yeah. Um Unrelated completely. I do see the I want to believe poster behind you, and I want
mhm.
to know your thoughts on a possible X-Files reboot. Yeah.
I cannot wait. I had it in my phone last year, but I deleted it for some reason. Angela Bassett as Skinner, AD Skinner.
Yes.
Um, I I think he might be a little too old for the role of Mulder, but I would love to see Sterling K. Brown
K.
in
Brown,
this.
yes.
Yeah, I love him so
Yes.
much. But like I've been like going through and like already like making certain casting decisions in my
I
head.
love it.
I know that Scully might return, like they've hinted at it, like she might come
Hmm.
back in some way, shape, or form. So Ryan Coogler's a genius. I
He
will
is.
watch everything he makes. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
I also am very excited about
Yeah.
it. Sinners was fantastic. I have only watched it once, but
Mhm.
it is still in my head every day since I've watched it. Like, I don't know, 6, 7 months ago.
I was telling somebody that there's like life before Sinners and
Yes.
life after Sinners. Like there's a very like deep like line in the sand between like my life before that movie and my life after that movie. And I'm so glad that it came out, this
Yes.
year. Because like or last year rather, obviously, because like vampires, like hey, if you like Sinners and vampires,
Yes.
like oh wait, Mystery James Sticks are great. But also, like I said, like Ryan Coogler is a genius. Michael B. Jordan. I didn't even know we only watched a teaser trailer, so I didn't
Hmm.
even know that Michael B. Jordan was playing twins until
Yeah.
we actually like sat down. I was like, he's a
Yeah.
twin, and he's
Yeah.
fantastic at it. So it's my favorite movie of last year.
It was absolutely my favorite movie of
Hmm.
2025, hands down.
Yeah, fantastic.
Ryan Coogler, you're doing great. Keep it up, please.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
that's pretty much all I've got. Like, unless what's your TBR pile looking like? Because mine is just a hot mess.
My TBR is I'm trying to make my way through it. I am
Hmm.
trying to break up some of my bigger books. I've only bought like two books this year, and you're like, well, it's only January 18th, and I'm like, yeah, it's only January 18th, and I've only bought two books
2 bucks,
because
yeah.
that I'm
Rookie
like
numbers.
I know, and I love to like buy books and like support authors. And I have
Yes.
every intention of reading every book that I put on my shelf at some point. So
Hmm.
I'm currently reading Babel. I let my husband pick my last book, and he really loved Babel.
Ooh.
So I'm only like 30% of the way through, and I'm really enjoying it.
Okay.
So I need something shorter though in between. So I've read a couple of graphic novels in the middle.
Love that.
I just read Ghost Book by Remy Lai, which is a middle grade horror children's graphic novel. And
Nice.
it was fantastic in a span of like 3 pages. I started to cry from sadness. I stopped myself from crying, and then I turned the page and I immediately cried from happiness. So,
Oh no. But I love when
so
books do that.
Remy is such a fantastic storyteller. She's got another book, Read It. I think it's called Read at Your Own Risk. That's fantastic. So if you have kiddos who like graphics, like spooky graphic
Yeah,
novels, those are two of my favorites. So yeah, I'm just working my way through graphic novels
I love that.
as I'm reading
Graphic
longer
novels
books.
are reading.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
They're reading.
I think that they are harder than regular
Yes.
fiction because you have to train your brain to read what is on the page, read like the text, know what is like dialogue versus not,
Yes.
and then you have to like read the pictures too. And
Yes.
reading the
You have
pictures
to,
is
yeah.
a
Reading
skill, a literacy
comprehension
skill.
is a thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it's a
Yep.
thing. Um, yeah. I did see you're gonna be at Thrillerdelphia, which is
I
exciting.
am. I am. I'll be, for those who are familiar with Philadelphia, they're in Philadelphia. They're a new spooky themed bookstore there. The owners have been so wonderful.
I love that.
They were asking people like about like potential events, and I was like, I'm in Central PA, and they were like, oh, we see you. So they, you know,
Oh,
we've been planning this for like a couple of months now, like that I was going to go out there once they got the books in stock, and so now they have stock of Mystery James Digs Her Own Grave. And so I'll be out there
yeah.
February 7th from 12 to 2 to sign books and
Nice.
do some other stuff. So yeah, come out and see me if you're out near Philly.
Yeah, I support that 100%. I will I'm next time you come closer to Massachusetts, I'm gonna make it my
Sep-
mission.
September. I'll be
Okay.
up that way in September. I'm not allowed to say for what, but
Okay.
September.
I will take that.
Okay.
Um, all right, listeners, readers, Allie, thank you so much for
Thank you,
agreeing
Kayla.
to be on here again. So excited for what you have next, especially the next Mystery Japes book. Let's go. Um, listeners, make sure you follow Allie everywhere. On Instagram, it's One Dark Alley, I believe, if I
Yep.
remember correctly. And make sure you pick up Mystery James because it is really a joy, especially if you are Puerto Rican and you like that little representation. It's chef's kiss. Um, yeah, that's it. That is another episode of Margin Mavens. Thank you all for your patience as Steph and I navigate the world as it is today with all of the things that are going on. And we will see you in the next episode.